Hey, good people, it's Venia here. Today is Sunday. Oh, the 1st of June. Wow. How time flies, right? Whether you're having fun or not, it still is going to fly. I had promised you guys I was going to come on Sunday, and I'm here. And the reason I wanted to come on because there were some questions that I really wanted to address. I don't do a ton of questions on my normal videos. And so today I just kind of wanted to answer some that were getting backed up. But there's still a lot of stuff that we need to talk about and put a spiritual perspective on. Um, and, you know, someone had said to me in one of the comments on my video that they love how I put a spiritual perspective on just about everything. And I don't take credit for that simply because of the fact that um, when you live out from coming from a spiritual perspective in life in general, or not even, we won't even classify it as spiritual, right? We'll just classify it as a um, objective view. Um, but coming from my stance, from having that near death experience and seeing the broader picture, right? I am able to look at things in a little bit broader, objective sense. Some, like that person, you can call it spiritual. Um, Not to be confused with religion, because as you know me, I am not, I adhere to no religion, no religious dogma. I don't attach to any religion. I think there's good in many of them, probably most of them, but I don't adhere to any in particular. Um, so I guess spiritual probably is a good general term for looking at things from a wider perspective that goes beyond the human, right? Because we know that there's something beyond the human perspective. This just isn't it. This. This isn't everything, right? I think most of you who are actually listening will agree this is not all there is. And that's a good thing. So, um, but I I did want to talk about these things, but like I said, from a spiritual perspective, um, because everything really in our lives and in life in general can be translated some kind of way using those spiritual gems, right? Um, there's like droplets of spiritual information that we can all apply, and it doesn't have to be the holier than thou stuff. Sometimes it's not. Spirituality is not holier than thou. Oh, everything's just great and lovely. No, that's not the whole of spirituality. Um, Spirituality is looking at things through a perspective of neutrality, because love, divine love, is perfect neutrality, right? And when I say neutrality, I mean it's not good, it's not bad, it is perfect harmony, right? Because when you have too much good, that's a sort of an imbalance, and when you have too much bad, that's definitely an imbalance, right? But when you have a seamless one of good and bad, it actually merges into everything that's going on, right? And that's your seamless one. And so, our best way to look at things is through that neutrality, right? But anyway, okay. So, can you all see my black eye that I got? No? Oh, sorry. Um, okay, just pretend I did. And then pretend I said my 5-year-old grandchild gave it to me. Okay, so let's talk about that first. Most of us who have had children have gotten hit at some point, whether deliberately or by accident, by our toddler children, right? I've never gotten a black eye, and I've got a boy. I've got boys, right? So, never has it produced a black eye at 5 years old, ever. Okay, so EMs can claim that he was hit by his 5-year-old son. The second he said it, it was just like, that's a super lie. I mean, it just, boom, lie. Um, but something interesting I wanted to tell you guys. He has EM's Mercury is on Miller's partnership right now. In the progressive chart of those two, his Mercury falls on his partnership, but also EM's nodes are on Miller's MC and IC. For those of you that don't know what that means, which is probably most of you, and no problem, that's it means there's a karmic connection there. All right, a very faded type of connection Miller and Elon have. Okay, but the fact that his Musk's Mercury falls in Miller's partnership house, house of partnership, wife, spouse, whatever. Okay, that means it's touching two major places. So Miller's wife is working for Musk partnership, Mercury, planet of communication, etc. Okay, but also the nodes falling on Miller's um, MC and IC. Like I said, karmic connection. Okay, I think you don't even have to probably be an astrologer or even psychic to figure out how EM got punched. But going by what I just told you, that's probably a good chance of determining what happened with that black eye, right? Um, and you know what's very interesting to me is I have been telling you guys for I don't know since what November last year um, that EM is very sick, and I've also said repeatedly that we will find out how physically ill he is by this summer. Well, summer is not even nowhere near yet. And yes, we found out he is physically ill. I mean, this guy is literally pissing blood. Okay? Um, and and a few other things that are going on physically with him, but basically, oops, no bladder control. Sorry, there was something that fell in my kitchen. No bladder control, um, and like there's something going on with the kidneys because they're having to process and the liver process all these drugs. Um, and if you take a look at him through a clear picture, you will see the yellow in his eyes, whites. Okay, so um, obviously his liver is suffering a strain. So that's probably going to get a little bit worse for him as time goes on, especially continuing this heavy drug use, right? But I just thought that was very interesting to share about Miller and EM and the black eye and the karma connection and blah, 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 blah. So, on a bit of quick good news, Ukraine since they were given the green light by the European Union to, hey, do what you got to do, fight this however you want. We're not going to restrict you like the United States has and had in the past. Ukraine just destroyed 40 airplanes in Russia. They were A-50. This happened in Irkutsk, where they were housed, I believe. These are surveillance planes, and they do like major surveillance. And then I think there was a few bombers there that were also destroyed too. I'm not positive on the bombers, but I know for a fact they were A-50 in Irkutsk. We're talking billions of dollars worth of damage. It's going to sort of cripple Russia's defensive, not defensive, but offensive capabilities. I mean, when you don't have the ability to really monitor things in that way and you have to rely on other things, that could be a problem. And the way Ukraine did it was sort of brilliant, but then they are probably the best military in the world. So kudos to you, Ukraine. Um, and I just think it's interesting. You know, we want to talk about how divine love appears, even in the midst of ugliness, right? So divine love peeks out however way it can do it, it's going to do it, right? So Don the Khan has, and this administration has not been helpful towards Ukraine at all, and no support really. But in that ugliness, Europe stepped up, and it turns out to be even a bigger blessing because Europe has unshackled Ukraine, and Ukraine can now fight with all their brilliance and might, right? And so this is just one example of them doing that. Remember last video I told you about Ukraine went in and attacked way deep into Russia, for little past Moscow, and destroyed quite a bit of stuff. So this basically lets Russia know, geez, you know, it kind of puts them on their tippy toes a little bit because of the fact that it's not such a lopsided war anymore, right? Um, but anyway, that's just another example of how divine love works its magic, right? The way it needs to, in the way that we can comprehend and understand. Okay? So, here's another thing. How about the Pope live streaming the day of the Army's, what are they having, like a birthday parade, 250 years or something like that, celebration of the Army. And Don the Khan, of course, wants to attach his birthday or whatever to it because it falls on his birthday. He wants to say this really a parade for him, but the Army has honestly always had this. The armed services has always had that. But anyway, the Pope is going to do a live stream of Mass into Chicago on that exact same day. Wow, that kind of says a lot. And good for him. I'm certainly not Catholic, but I can imagine that many Catholics will be tuning in and not interested in anything that could be going on if Don the Khan even is able to attend that parade. If he's able to even attend it. Let's see. Let's discuss Don the Khan's talking about pardoning Diddy, okay? I have told you guys since Diddy, right after he was arrested, I said that in time we won't even be able to recognize him because he will have aged and deteriorated so much, and now we've seen that. But I also felt that at some point he was going to reach like a dark night of the soul, and it wouldn't be good for him. it just would not be good. He may even make the drastic choice of does he want to stay or here or does he want to go. So as far as a pardon for him, I don't even know if it's going to even get to that point. Um, I just don't think it will. I don't see it. I don't see it getting to the point of there being a pardon. So, however that unfolds should be very interesting. Let's see. San Diego, you guys showed up for the immigrants there who ICE was trying to get. One of the things I have seen consistently, and I'm still seeing it very strongly, is people, not only the protests, but large crowds. And I've told you guys, they're going to get at times somewhat violent. And I know you remember me telling you that. And that is sort of all part of how this has to unfold. Um, this administration is going to be shocked at the resistance that people have towards these authoritarian type tactics. It's going to be like the more they push, the more pushback they're going to get. Okay? And San Diego did their thing in showing ICE that showed up at a restaurant. Um, no, we're not having this. And, you know, that's going to be sort of across the country. Now, here's another example of that. There was a woman, her name was Carol in Missouri. She is an immigrant. She is very beloved at a certain restaurant in Missouri. Now, here's the thing, where the restaurant is located, Missouri is a red state anyway, okay? But where the restaurant is located, they voted for Trump like 4-1. Okay, so these are very MAGA type people. Well, ICE showed up and took Carol. She's still being processed for deportation. These MAGAs were not having it. Okay, they themselves not only raised money for this immigrant Carol, okay, but they have contacted the local officials there. They are pissed because the leader, the one that's kind of running um, this opposition to ICE taking their beloved Carol, um, he's like, "Hey, wait a minute. We thought you this they were just going to round up gang members and criminals. Carol's not a criminal. You see? Do you see sometimes what it takes for people to recognize things, right? Sometimes things have to get ugly in order for us to be able to see it from a different view, from a different standpoint, and for us to learn the truth of situation. So, in both of those cases I just mentioned, yes, they're ugly, um, but look at the good that's come out of both of them. Okay, these are MAGAs literally raising money in Missouri, deep red Missouri, for this waitress Carol. Okay, um, and they're not playing. They want her free. They want her let go, and everyone is there is willing to sponsor her and this and that and this and that. So go look up that story too, because that's kind of sort of a big thing, especially there, um, and in that town. I'm sure if you Google Carroll, immigrant Carroll, Missouri, you'll see it should come up. Um, but I love that, and you know. So I want to talk too about these ICE agents. Okay, I have a book. I have a chapter in my first book, and it's titled North Korea. And for those of you that have read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to read the chapter or anything like that. But when I say that these people, these ICE agents, okay, um, this is a major test for them of their integrity. Okay, how they're going to perform their job, if they even want to perform this job. Do you want to be part of something that is so negative and at times very wrong? Okay, um, because a situation like North Korea could very well be in your future um, plans for incarnation. Okay. Um, we are given many tests on integrity throughout our life. I mean, from very small things like very small things. You're at the store, you give someone a 10, they give you change back for a 20. Do you keep it or do you say, hey, you gave me too much money? Uh, that's one of those tests of integrity that happen consistently throughout our lives, just to see where we're at, a good gauge. And the higher ups, our guides, higher ups, um, will constantly throw those type of tests at us, right? Do you badmouth someone that really doesn't deserve it? Do you just do it out of spite because maybe you're harboring jealousy towards them, or or what, for whatever petty reason, and you make a claim against them that basically isn't true or a little exaggerated? That's one of those tests of integrity. Okay. um, but that also falls in line with one of the questions that I'm going to answer today, and that is it okay to get angry? um, Absolutely. Absolutely it is. um, that's another test of integrity, but sometimes here's the thing: anger is just another emotion we express, um, and that sometimes it comes from our spirit, and in doing so our spirit interprets it through our physical consciousness, our human brain. It comes through as anger. Okay. It's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just what you do with the anger, right? Do you take that anger and get violent with it, or do you take that anger and let it propel you to an action that will maybe resolve something, or stand firm on something, right? Um, I got angry this morning, as a matter of fact, at a guy. I yelled at him. I have a mega church that's around me, one of those big super churches. And these people, although they have a super big parking lot for the church, these people love to park in everywhere on the street that they can. And I'm a block from the church, and they at times will park, you know, in front of my house, right in front of my car. They might block part of the street. They don't care. But today, this guy was really backing up into the spot in front of one of my cars and really was on my bumper, and I could see that it was pressed in. I yell out the window, "Yo, you're on my bumper. Get off. Move." He gets out the car. He did apologize, and moved his car up. Had I not had let him do it, he would have dented in my front bumper. But that's one of those cases where justifiably I was angry. Um, What did I do with it? I let him know something and he corrected it. That was done. It's over with. I didn't go uh, out there and, flatten his tire or anything, you know, after he walked off. No. Um, the anger did what it needed to do. Okay? So I'll put a check by this because I already answered this question ahead of time. But is it okay to get angry? Yes, it certainly is. It's just one of the ways that spirit expresses itself through us. Okay? Sometimes it'll do that through a depressed feeling, a sad feeling, but that is to propel us to either take a look at a situation or why we're feeling that way. Um, and in doing so, things unfold unto us, right? Um, why are we sad? Sometimes that needs to be looked into. And then you realize, you know what? It's not either worth this feeling I'm feeling or, yes, it's a sad situation. However, I can handle it this way or whatever way. Okay? Um, but spirit speaks through us, and in doing so, it produces emotions. And there's a wide range of emotions. And so that is why I've told you guys in lesson number 1, watch your expectations on what you think or how you think divine love should manifest in your life, right? Because it doesn't always come as, oh my God, this is bliss. It's impossible to feel bliss 24/7 here on this earth. It, we're supposed to deal with different emotions, different feelings in order to grow, in order to learn. Okay? In other type of existences for us that are available and that we have experienced and will experience, there is what is called a constant state of bliss, blissful feeling. But we're not in that state right now. Okay? We're not in that state. So not feeling happy 24/7 is a-okay and is actually very divine because like I said, spirit manifests understanding through us in many different ways and by feeling many different feelings. Okay? Anger is one of them, depression, sometimes sadness, happiness, joy, whatever. Okay? That's all very divine. Very divine. That's how spirit is manifesting itself through you in this incarnation. All right? Okay. Okay, here's another question. Is sex wrong? And that was actually sent to the Facebook group. Um, they went anonymous to ask, and they also definitely didn't want their identity exposed. So I didn't even publish it into the group, but I'm going to answer it because this person did indicate that they listen to my videos all the time. They'd never miss one. Is sex wrong? Absolutely not. Sex, like the emotions I just explained, which are very natural and normal for our human existence, sex is just very natural and normal for this human existence. Period. Period. Um, Now, as with anything, it can be abused, right? Just like we can abuse the anger. Had I gone out after this guy and flattened his tire for tapping my bumper, I would have abused a very divine emotion that came from my spirit. I would have abused it. And then I would have set off a little chain of karma for myself if I had done that. Same with sex. Very natural, very normal, very divine because it is one of the um, ways we express ourselves in this existence, right? But if it is abused, like if you're using sex for control, or if you're using sex to dominate someone, or you dominate someone by sex, um, or who's unwilling and really unaware, like for instance, children, that's abuse, okay? Then you've got a problem. You have set up a chain of karmic events for yourself. But the normal um, sexual desire is just that, very normal, very natural. Just another way for um, us to express ourselves and express our feelings. Now, I'm sure this will propel many to ask, is there sex in the spiritual realm? Not certainly like it is here. There is a form of merging, okay, which many remember while they're here, okay, and it's the merging is so sublime that is done between two spirits while in spiritual form that many crave that while they're here, okay, and many will get like sort of a sexual either addiction or be so obsessed with it because they're pulling on that memory. But this experience will hardly ever match how you can experience it in the spiritual realm. Okay? And I think that's why sex fascinates so many here, because you are pulling on those memories of that ultimate merging. But in the spiritual realm, it's a merging of the consciousness, the light body that's used, okay, and the frequency, okay. And when you've got all those going on, okay, into that beautiful blended merging, right, you experience a oneness, okay, a connectivity to everything in the spiritual realm. Whereas here you may touch the hem of it, but it's nowhere close to what you will experience there. So many will, like I said, crave that or long for it. It's like a subtle nagging memory that they have, and they just long for that same type of feeling. And the orgasm here on earth will bring you somewhat close, but not it's not the real thing, okay? And it cannot really be duplicated or replicated here. I know about the tantric methods and the this and the that, but it's not, it can't be really duplicated here, okay? It really can't. But no, so is sex wrong? Absolutely not. No. Mm-mm. And please don't have guilt if you like or enjoy sex. It's the same as if you like or enjoy a donut as far as spirit is concerned. You know, it's just not a bad thing. It's okay. Okay, on to the next one. Vina, do you still see your dad or his spirit essence, whatever? Um, so for many that don't know, my dad passed a couple years ago, and very suddenly, very quickly. Um, I do miss him terribly. I really do. But I also understand that his passing physically is just that, is passing physically, and he's so much aware of his true self and his true happiness, which is something that kind of eluded him here. So for me, the missing him is overtaken by knowing that he is experiencing a deeper happiness, a deeper awareness of who he is and what life is. But do I still see him? I don't see him, but I feel his essence. Yes, there are times when I can feel his essence, his spiritual self. It'll kind of come over me, dip in for a little bit, and then it's gone. It's not often, because you know they are doing their own thing. I mean, they're way busier than us. Okay, the deceased, they are living their true best life. We like to say that here, and it cracks me up when people say that because it's like, really? But the spirit, the deceased are really living their best life. And so, yes, he dips in and dips out, but not too often. I also know, and I've told you guys, I've explained this in my book. Um, we can always talk to the deceased, and even if they're not necessarily around, um, the thought of them stays in our spiritual consciousness, right? And so they eventually will pick up our words, our meaning, um, etc. So that is something to remember, when you think someone is deceased and gone. You can still talk to them just as we're talking right now. Um, yeah. Okay. Next one. Let's see. Okay, I have a question. They read my book, and in the book I talk about death dates. Okay? And so they asked, let's say we have three exit dates. We've set up three exit dates. I know that final date is final. My question is, how do we choose one of the other exit points? Do we have coffee with our spirit guides the night before and decide we are going to use that date? So, um, it says, I really enjoyed your first book, and I will start on the second one next. But they're just really curious to know that further information on the death dates. So, here's the thing, things are fluid. Uh, the universe is in a constant state of fluidity, fluidity. However, it is also, for lack of a better word, I want to say static. So basically, what that means is that there's some things that are always there, like divine love pulsing throughout everything, throughout all existence, all dimension, non dimensions. um, etc. Right? But there's a fluidity to life. Okay, so when we come here and we decide to come here and we set up these death dates, right? Um, and the reason why we're able to kind of pick and choose certain ones, except for the final one, of course, is because we all have branches that come out of our life through different choices that we make. Branches of different energy streams, I call them, because that's how I saw them, energy streams. So we're allowed to make certain choices within certain areas of our life, and they may branch off this way or they may branch off that way, okay? Um, Now, everything eventually will merge into what it needs to be at some point, right? But we have different ways that we can get to there. That's how I want to say it. So, in that branching off, you may set off another cascade of events, right? That may cause another branch of energies to come out, okay? And so, say for instance, you decide you wanted to leave at this certain final date because at that first certain final date you know that you will have accomplished whatever, okay? But let's say that because of these choices you made and the branch of energies that branched off, right, you can probably get to that a little bit sooner than what you initially thought. So you may choose a sooner death date, okay? You may say, you know what, I don't need to go this next 10 years. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one and exit sooner. You make that on a spiritual level, okay? Not on this level. You make it on a spiritual level. And yes, at some point, you do speak to your guide about it, your spiritual companion, and you may have more than one guide. So you will converse with them, and they will look at all the different streams of energies going out in all the different pathways. And you know what they'll say? They'll say, hey, it's okay. Looks good. If you exit here, this will happen, but that's okay because this will take care of that. Okay? And then you can say, all right, all right, I'm going to go ahead and take it. And the guy says, well, you know, you can choose a quick exit. You want to get hit by a car? Do you just want to have a heart attack? Um, how do you want it to be? And you may say, you know what, let's have it be little drawn out, only just to give my family enough time to say goodbye. Okay? So let's draw it out for a week or a month. And I'll say, okay, we'll do that. And then circumstances will be put in motion to make that happen. So yes, it's a situation that not only involves your higher self, your spiritual self, but your guide or your guides, um, and those advising your life. Okay. Others may say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go quick because I just really don't want that mourning for them, for the people that I love. I don't want them to go through a long, drawn out, process of this. Let me just go and, yeah, it'll be a shock, but you know what? They'll get over that shock. And so I'll just be in an accident. Okay, well, and they happen to look and see that in your path there's the good possibility that you can have this accident. And I know I'm saying this very just cavalier, but in actuality, that is how it works. That is how it works. That's exactly how it works. Um, for you and I, we experience it in a whole much more deeper emotional way for sure, right? But from the spiritual vantage point, right? Well, there's no death. So they're not looking at it in an emotional type of draining, sad way. Okay? And you have to remember too that a lot of times I'm being given information from that side, and so that's just how they're presenting it to me. All right? But so yes, that's basically kind of what happens. You do discuss it, over whatever, and decide on how to exit. You know, um, there there are no accidents, and there are no random uh, stuff just going on. All right, so I believe that is it for today. It's kind of packed a lot into that today's session, so I'm going to end it there. But thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you again real soon. I don't plan on having any impromptu vacations coming up. Um, Not anytime soon, anyway. But take care, and until we see each other again, thanks.